Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. The red sand beaches, the food, the weather, it's the perfect spot for a weekend getaway. But how easy is it to get to? Today we'll find out as we travel with Air Canada Rouge from Nashville to Charlottetown. Today we'll start out our journey in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll fly on an Air Canada Rouge A319 in economy class. Then in Toronto we'll switch planes and travel on an A321 on to Charlottetown, trying out Air Canada's Premium Rouge product. In researching for this video, I found a lot of negative reviews on Air Canada Rouge. But, as always, I'm approaching this with an open mind. You never know. We might be surprised, and this product might be excellent today. Let's see how it all pans out. When I arrived in Nashville Airport, I tried to find the Air Canada check-in desk. However, due to the new reorganization of the airport, I found the check-in desk very difficult to find, so I just decided to take my backpack and head through security. I'd gate check it at the gate. At the time of this video, the international departure terminal hadn't been completed yet, so I headed to gate B11 to board my flight. I know that international flights are a real priority for this airport, and I am excited to see what flights become available as the international departures terminal is completed. Already planning to gate check my bag, I was pleasantly surprised when the gate agent made an announcement for all roller bags to be gate checked. I was in luck. I quickly approached the agent and I checked my large internal frame backpack. I'd see it again in Charlottetown. After boarding, I found my seat for the next few hours, seat 19F. I found that the seat width was quite average, equally on par with mainline carriers in the United States. However, to my dismay, I was seated next to a gentleman with shoulders equally as broad as mine, and there was no shorter room to be had. Somehow I always have this sort of luck. I think that most larger passengers gravitate towards the exit rows. I wish that narrow-body carriers would account more for larger passengers, especially when they sell longer legroom seats. As I settled in, I was glad I selected seat 19F for the extra legroom. Looking at the other seats, it did not look as though there was much extra legroom. Seat Guru puts that these seats are at 29 inches of pitch. That's 1 inch less than the pitch on your standard domestic carrier. Even with the extra legroom, the handle of the exit row and the armrest of the row in front of me were right where my knees would have gone. As we pushed back, the cabin crew gave a quick safety brief, and this being an Air Canada flight, decided it was so nice they did it twice, the second time in French. The plane took off, and about 10 minutes after takeoff, the cabin crew started refreshment service. Crew were efficient and very polite. My seat being 19F, my tray table was accessible via the armrest rather than the seat in front of me. It was a bit hard to pull out due to the arm of the gentleman seated next to me. Once I finally had the tray table out, it was not quite as sturdy as I would have liked to be for getting work done on this trip. But this being a sub 2-hour flight, I had already decided to travel light today, opting for my Patagonia Atom travel sling and a tablet. As for the tray table, we'll get back to that in a second. Food offerings were modest but appreciated. A small bag of pretzels and a drink. I initially wanted a cranberry juice, but was sadly informed that they only had apple or orange juice, so I went for an apple. As for the tray table, I soon learned that the flimsiness of the table would make beverage service a difficult but entertaining ordeal. Before I asked for a napkin to set my drink down, it gravitated outwards on the table. I had fun with this for a short while, but soon just wedged my leg under the table to make it flat. It also seemed like the napkin under the glass would have alleviated the problem, but in all practicality, it only took me a few sips of the thimble-sized glass before it was gone. Perhaps it was just me, but I felt like it was much smaller than the standard glasses offered by American mainline carriers, and it also came with no ice. As I settled in to watch the in-flight entertainment, I took some time to experience the comforts, or lack thereof, of my seat. The seat back seemed high, which I enjoyed. I also found the adjustable headrest to be sufficient enough to lean on. However, as time went on, I started to feel just how thin the cushions were. And as I had to angle my body in my game of shoulder jousting with the gentleman next to me, I certainly wish I had more space to sit with my torso centered on the seat. I was in luck though, as not long after that thought had occurred to me, the flight deck announced that the plane would be landing 20 minutes early. As the plane emerged from under the cloud layer, we were met with sweeping views of Lake Ontario and in the distance the Toronto skyline. As we taxied to gate F83, I admired a parked Antonov cargo jet and really was in awe of the size of this plane. After a quick trip through customs, thanks to the Canadian Customs automated kiosks, I had to admit I was fairly hungry. Thankfully, due to my AC bid upgrade, I had access to the Maple Leaf Lounge, so I made my way there. Due to the busyness of the lounge, I was not able to get great footage of it, so you'll have to take my word for it. To my delight, I found it to not be too busy, and I found a comfortable chair with an ottoman in a corner looking out on the window. However, rather than views of the apron, I got to see the lovely roof of Terminal 1. I'll admit that I did enjoy the sunlight though, and my quiet little corner was quite pleasant. The food selection was good, albeit average. I had the chicken dish over a plate of rice. There were also several desserts, a salad bar, and a selection of sliders. The bar was well stocked when I first arrived. However, I did notice that as my time went on there, bottles weren't restocked as they were emptied. But again, it was the dinner rush. One move that I really liked that Air Canada made, that I can only assume was made to alleviate congestion in the Maple Leaf lounges, was in creating the Maple Leaf Cafe. I had access to it, so I decided to stop by on the way to my gate. I really liked the concept. There was plenty of grab-and-go options, and I could really see how this would be helpful for a tight connection, or for the passenger who enjoys a few extra minutes of sleep on their first flight of the day. I sat at the bar and the barista served me a double macchiato. I have to admit that I found it quite good. On my way out the door, I grabbed a cappuccino and a yogurt parfait cup with chia seeds to eat at the gate. Both were delicious. I made my way to gate D43, where I found my plane waiting, and there was a flurry of activity throughout the surrounding gates. I only had to wait a few minutes for my flight to board, but I found the crowds a bit overwhelming. With all the noise and announcements from all the other gates, I almost missed my boarding announcement, but I got a notification on my phone, and it was all alright. I made my way down the jet bridge and found my seat 3F. To my surprise, the seats are almost identical to the first-class seats on American Airlines A321 fleet. The seats had a very professional leather-esque dark gray color. To my left of my seat, there was a small storage area, perfect for a tablet, book, or in my case, easy access to my camera gear. One nice feature of these seats was that in addition to the recline feature, they all had a leg rest, though I didn't feel like there was quite enough seat pitch to really stretch out. Not that I'm complaining, I'm just trying to give you the whole picture here. As we were getting ready to push back from Terminal 1, I settled back and listened to the safety demonstration from a very polite and enthusiastic cabin crew member. As we were taxiing, we were cheerfully given a menu for meal service. Air Canada tries to provide a meal service to all business class flights longer than 2 hours. I wasn't sure if we would get one with this 9 p.m. departure time, but I was pleased to have the option. After a short taxi, the plane took off from the runway. I'm usually not a fan of nighttime departures, but we had sweeping views of Toronto and the CN Tower all lit up. The moon was reflected off of Lake Ontario. We would shadow the north shore of the lake and the St. Lawrence Seaway for most of tonight's flight. In-flight service began about 10 minutes after takeoff with a warm towel. It's not something I'm accustomed to on U.S. carriers, so it was a nice touch. After that, drink service followed. I got a Coca-Cola. It didn't take long for my drink to arrive, and I have to give credit to the flight attendants. Also, the Air Canada branding glassware is a nice touch, and it really does look quite sharp. Dinner was a nice chicken dish over couscous with a salad, balsamic dressing, a warm roll, and some warm bread. In all, it was a nice presentation on actual dinnerware. The salad was fresh. I found the chicken and couscous to be very flavorful and very good. I have to say that I am well impressed with the service on such a short, late evening flight. As the plane began to land in Charlottetown, I have to say I was very impressed by the cabin crew and the quality of product Air Canada delivered on this flight. After a short taxi, we were at our gate. We would deplane today by plane stairs. I have to say that I really enjoyed the lights of the terminal in Charlottetown, and although I found baggage claim to be quite small, I definitely enjoyed flying into this airport. I would do this trip again in a heartbeat.